Bayo, it's a very important month, as you know, Black History Month, all about celebrating black talent, culture and history, as well as engaging in the ongoing fight for racial equality. Now, I know that you want to talk specifically about a period in your life when you were playing football in Lithuania as part of Black History Month. And I think what's important about this is that everyone looks at you from the outside and sees how successful you've been as a professional footballer. We've got your shirts for some of the clubs you played for behind. You know, you're a podcaster, a pundit, social media influencer, millions of followers. But I think what a lot of people don't know is some of the obstacles you've had to overcome to get where you are today. So I don't know how prepared you are or how much detail you want to go in, because I know, having spoken to you, this is a very sort of deep, I think, is a fair way to say, time of your life. But tell us about how that move came about to Lithuania and what age you were.
Yeah, it's funny because I think we all got a story to tell. I think we've all got an autobiography. Yeah. And of course, this was part of mine. And I think that, celebrate's the wrong word. I think that you should embrace your trials and tribulations, embrace your challenges. And I've never had a problem with talking about this. And this situation with my Lithuania, it was, so the move came around, I was 17, just about to turn 18. I just got released from Watford. My agent at the time was married to a Lithuanian. His wife was Lithuanian. And then the president of the club in Lithuania came to watch one game at Watford. So then anyway, after I got released, he approached my agent, said, listen, we like the look of him. Would he come out to Lithuania for a trial? Yeah. So he sold it in a way like they played UEFA Cup football. So I was like, in my head, I was like, I've never heard of Lithuania at the time.
You hadn't even heard of the country?
Never even heard of the country, I won't lie to you. Never even heard of the country. So he said, look, to my agents, like, look, it's a European club. Nothing's happening here. Go out for 2 weeks, see how you like it. So it was September. I went out in September, went out on a 2-week trial. I landed in Vilnius, which is the capital. We drove to the city of Klaipėda, which is about 3.5 hours away from the town, the city centre. So I got there in September. When I mean the city was beautiful, the weather was hotter than London. So I was like, rah, this ain't bad, you know what I'm saying? All right, cool. Went there, trained. And it's funny because I think when you're young, you're fearless. So I didn't take into account I didn't speak the language. I didn't take into account not liking the food. I didn't take into account the colour of my skin. I literally just was like, I'm going to go play football. Yeah. So
and you were 18 at the time?
I was 18 at the time. Yeah. If you could plan a perfect trial, these 3 days were it. Right. Literally, I was running in on the channel. You may find it hard to believe now if you watch me playing now. You know what I'm saying? Like, but I was running in the channel. I was doing skills one-on-one. It was a perfect trial. After 3 days, they said, we want to sign you for 3 years. So I was like, it's cool. Like, I was very confident. I was like, I knew that would happen. Came back to London thinking, now I've got a European club that's after me. It will make me more attractive.
Oh, so you use that to potentially get an offer.
That's what I was thinking. I was like, yeah, but this wasn't the norm. Yeah. Like, that's what this wasn't the norm. So I came back here thinking, yeah, it's cool. I'm not gonna ever go back there. So I got back in September. So then October came, nothing. November came, nothing. December came, nothing. January came, nothing. February came, nothing. So my agent was like, look, B, there's nothing out here for you. Like, so their season was from April to November. Okay. That's their season. So March was their pre-season. So my agent was like, look, B, I think you should go out. Go out for a year, get the experience. They play UEFA Cup, that'll be on your CV. Go out there. So literally nothing was here. And I was like, look, ain't nothing gonna stop me from playing football. Yeah. When I landed in March, I don't know what had changed, but I landed over and all you saw was white. So I was thinking, have we landed? We've come into the same airport. This was March, it was snow everywhere. So I was like, okay, this is different from when I came in September. First red flag. Yeah. First game we played, it was a pre-season game, and like most pre-season games, we played the local team. Yep. So we didn't play in a stadium, we played in a pitch where all the fans were around.
Fans are very close
onto it. So again, when I mean there was no red flags up until the first game. Right. Kicked off. As a striker do, I stand out on the side. So to pick back and play diagonal. So we did that, played it back, played diagonal. So I've gone down the line to chest it down and straight away heard monkey chants. So in my head I'm thinking, nah, B, like, nah, that can't be. Yeah. So anyway, like, whatever, ball went out for a throw in or I didn't, so they didn't say nothing. So anyway, went it through down the line, got the ball again, monkey chants. I was like, at the second time, I definitely knew it was monkey chants. So I was thinking, so then I was like, raw, they are doing monkey chants, like right beside, like literally on the sideline. So I was like, oh, okay, cool, say nothing. So anyway, went for a goal kick. They kicked it, we won it. I went to chest, and then the chant started. Zigga, 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 shoot the effing N-word.
Oh my
This was the
word.
chant. So zigga, 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 shoot the, and this was the chant. And I was like, I literally stopped and just looked around, thinking, what? And then what made it worse, there was about 1,000 supporters singing it.
1,000 supporters singing that
500 were the local team, 500 were my own team.
So your own fans are singing this disgusting and derogatory chant
The away team started it.
about their own player.
And then my home team joined in on it. So anyway, at half-time, I remember at half-time, so I got through to half-time. And I remember, so my team captain played in Poland, so he spoke a bit in English. So he was the only one that spoke in English. So even the manager, he's speaking Lithuanian, ain't got a clue what they're saying. So I'm sitting there and I'm just steaming in my head. So I went to him, I was like, yo, what does zigga zigga mean?
Yeah.
Like, he was like, nothing, they just rhyme it with the N-word. And I was like, and he just said it nonch. He was like, oh, not it, they just rhyme it. So I was like, raw. So anyway, second half came and started doing it. And I was like, you know what, I'm coming off.
Yeah.
So I signaled to the manager, I was like, I'm coming off. As I came off, it was a massive roar, clapping. And it's funny because, I'll get back to the feeling that happened. So as I come off, the president, he spoke English. So the manager never spoke English, but the club president, he spoke English. So I took his phone and I said, I need to use your phone. I phoned my brother. And this happened 20 years ago. I was 18, I'm 38, 20 years ago. I remember it like it was yesterday. I phoned my brother. I was like, yo, bro, it's my older brother. I'm like, yo, bro, brother, I'm coming home. He was like, rah, why? What happened? I was like, yo, they're being racist. You know, I'm telling you, this is what they said. And he was like, yeah? He went to me, listen, B, I won't tell you to stay anywhere that you don't feel comfortable, but if you leave, they win. That was all he said to me. And it's funny because I would like to say that it was like a film and music started playing and I was like, oh, nah, I'm gonna go beat them. As soon as I come off the phone, I was like, I'm coming home. I was like, listen, I'm coming home. I don't care, they can win. But it's funny because I went to bed that night and I woke up and call it divine intervention, call it somebody, God speaking to me at. But I woke up and it's funny because I was like, ain't nobody kicking me out of anywhere. And I remember coming back thinking, nah, you know what? But the thing that disappointed me was that I allowed them to make me come off that pitch in the second half. It still grumbles me.
To this day,
still grumbles me. And when I talk about it, I'm like, damn. Like, and regardless of what, some people may say it won't weakness. For me, it was weakness. And I get that I was young. I get that I hadn't gone through experience. And what I'd learned was I was the first black person in the league.
In the entire league?
In the entire league. First black person in the league. One of maybe 10 black people in the city of Clypetor. And this is what I'm learning. And then I realized the following week, the manager brought me into his change room. So he had the translator because he couldn't speak. And he was like, listen, if you're going to go to the town centre, he owned a security firm called Argus. So he was like, listen, 2 members are gonna come with you. And I was like, what? Like, nah, listen, I'm a big man. Like, I'm good, I don't need that. And there was another incident where I've gone shopping. So I went out there and I started rooming with another player that my agent had. So he was a Japanese under 21 international. So he spoke English, we roomed together. So we went out to shopping. Went shopping. And it's funny because the first time I went shopping, when I mean Smitty, the whole shopping mall stopped when I walked in. Literally walked in, it was like tumbleweeds were going, that it looked, just people was like, oh my days, what's going on here? So I remember the first time it felt uncomfortable. And so anyway, I get my shopping and I go to the till, and it's funny because I'm 18, I'm a big size at 18. You know, I come from a metropolitan city like London, went to a metropolitan school, integrated with all different cultures. And so I'm at the till and there's this little girl, 11, and she's dressed all in black. And there's a group of people, they're all dressed in goth, Dr. Martens, black, all black lipstick. And the little girl came up to me as I'm about to pay and just says, white power, like in my face. And I look at her and I kid you not, and I say this, I wanted to see where her dad is because I wanted to hit him. so hard because I was like the audacity of that. Weren't no fear, no nothing, just white power. And I remember I brushed it off like, you know what? And it's funny because a month into my stay, my girl at the time and my brother, who was 14, he came out. So we went to shopping. So now there's 3 black people that walked in. But by this time, I am so used to it. So as I've walked in, the whole place shuts. And my brother, still to this day, tells me how uneasy he felt. And I'm saying, big man, but I'd got so used to the uneasiness, which should never be the case. No. You should never get used to that. But I had got used to that. But what it did show me in that whole ordeal was I scored goals. We got to the equivalent to the FA Cup final. FK Atlantis hadn't won a trophy in 11 years. We won it 1-0. I scored the goal. So towards my own fans, I became, I wouldn't say a legend, but I was the guy who brought a trophy. They stopped being racist, still got a racist, when I mean they stopped saying racial abuse.
Yeah, but babe, do you think they stopped racially abusing you because of what you did on the pitch or because they accept you as a person?
No, because of what I did on the pitch.
But how does that make you feel then? Because there wasn't an acceptance.
Do you know what? No, because for me, they didn't know me. So what it did show me was it was ignorance. So how can you accept somebody because they're scoring goals for you, but totally dislike somebody because they're colour of their skin? You don't know me either way. So for me, it was a lot of ignorance and it was a fear of the unknown. So they hadn't seen a black person close up. So automatically, whatever was drummed into their brain, that was what they were saying. But because I was scoring goals for their team, bringing joy to their team, they looked past the colour of my skin. So that's where, for me, it was like, it was a lot of ignorance that came into play from that. So, like I said, what I took from that, the whole ordeal was that some people are very, very scared of what they don't know. Right. Do you get what I'm saying? So, again, it was, and what I took as girl, it was the first time where I opened up my first Adidas store. I didn't pay at restaurants anymore. I didn't pay at the cinema. So from the person that was getting the monkey charts, and I'm not saying all of a sudden that they was cool with me because of the colour of my skin. I agree with you. They was cool with me because I brought them joy. You know what I'm saying? So it was a stepping stone from just seeing the black person to then seeing the black person who scored goals and done well for their team. So that was my whole ordeal with the whole Lithuania trial and tribulation. And it's funny because it's a mindset. It is a mind, like, again, I'm young. I'm fearless. I'm going through things I've never felt I would have to experience straight up to my face. You know, there's unconscious biasness, you know what I'm saying? And there's overt racism where it's, you know, it's behind, it's not in your face. It was blatant in my face. There was no sugarcoating it. They was being racist and I had to deal with that. And when I say that, I was alone at that time, 20 years ago. So I let people, the older people know, I had to go to the internet cafe to use MSN. So there was no FaceTime. MSN Messenger, you know, there was no FaceTime. I had to get phone cards to phone home. So when I mean I was isolated, I was isolated. So I went through it. And it's not that, I wouldn't say I would ever do it again or want to do it again. But in a roundabout way, I'm glad I went through it because it shaped me to the person who I am today. So when we then move on to, if people talk about body shaming or, you know, listen, for 20 years I've been getting called, you know, your tits are offside, or you're just a fat Eddie Murphy, or you fat B word, you know what I'm saying? I've been getting that, but I was hearing words like zigga, 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 shoot, foot. So how can then I not deal with that sort of side of it, sort of thing? So I keep saying that, you know, sometimes when you're going through your darkest times, it shapes you for your light moments, if you know what I mean. So, yeah, man, that's the talk on the Lithuania.
It's incredibly powerful listening to that. And I think that the thing that I want to say to that is that people look at you and you are such an outgoing, confident and positive person. But how did you change that mindset, having been through that at such a young age? You just said you're 18 years old, you're in a country with people that very few even spoke the language. You're
Yeah.
experiencing horrific, I mean, that is horrific abuse.
Yeah.
How did you turn that into a positive? Because there'll be people watching this who've experienced some sort of discrimination somewhere on the line, unfortunately. How did you turn that into a positive? Because I feel guilty as a friend of yours. We go back years, and we've done some of the most light-hearted, crazy features in the past, but I've never had this conversation with you. I feel guilty not speaking to you about this.
Yeah, but see, I don't think, and that's what it is. I don't ever want you to feel guilty. Your heart's pure. Me and you connect.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So don't ever feel guilty in the sense of, you know what? Listen, we all go through trials and tribulations in the sense where, you would have gone through your trials and tribulations, which I may not be able to, I've never gone through because I've never been in your shoes, but I can empathize like you do in here. You're like, you know what, B, that was wrong.
Yeah.
And so I get that. So for me, it's a thing where, look, I look at it and I guess the best way for me to wrap it up in the sense where I think when you're younger or you're just going through initial experiences, you try and impress. So you go into anywhere and at first you try and impress. Oh, how can I impress that person? Or how can I do that? And when you become comfortable with who you are, you try and do your best. So ultimately, if your best is your best and your best falls short, you can always look at yourself in the mirror and say, you know what, I did my best. Whereas if you're trying to impress, you can't then relay that to say your best because you're trying to impress. So you're coming out of I wouldn't say you're comfortable. And the biggest thing we have as individuals, forget colour, is our individuality. Nobody can do or be us better than us. So for me, I flipped that into a positive in the sense where I was like, look, you know what? I overcame that moment. So if I can overcome that moment, any other trials and tribulations I come in my life, I can overcome it. And that was the mindset. So when I left Lithuania and I was at Barrytown and then I went to Russian and Diamonds and Leighton Orient and I was getting set, it was like, B, you overcame that. You was by yourself. Like, you know what I'm saying? You went and you tackled it head on. So, but if you can deal with that, you can deal with anything. And that's how I flipped it. And of course, as you get older, you start taking things out of situations that is the positives. Because ultimately, you can always say, look, there's people worse off than you, there's people better off than you, but it's how you kind of look at it to maximize. And it's like, I kid you not, the older I've got, the more comfortable I've become as a person. So and that's how it is. I'll always see you, and I don't want people to see me as a footballer because I will one day hang up my boots. See me as a person. I try and take my life mentality, my life mindset into everything I do. And that's what it is. So how I would deal with trials and tribulations on the pitch, I would try and deal with it off the pitch. As well, and that's, and that's how I've tried to flip it into a positive in the sense where it's like, you know what, Bob, I kid you not, I'm comfortable. Like, I don't live for your validation. And that's where I think people go wrong. It's like, oh, you know what, how do they see me? How do they perceive me? How that? And I'm like, look, don't get it twisted. I don't want people just to go around and be chatting bad about me and that. No, nobody does. You know what I'm saying? But at the same time, how can I give somebody who's temporary in my life permanent status? So that's the thing. So when I go through those people who spit negative on social media or them keyboard warriors, I'm like, look, there's a superficial acknowledgement and then there's internal acknowledgement. So the superficial is, you saying, my tits are just offside. That's superficial. I'm like, I don't know you to say that. It would mean much different if my mum said it to me or my dad said it to me. Somebody in my inner circle or somebody I hold value or respect. It doesn't even have to be somebody that's in my inner circle. I feel if you said something negative or you was like, nah, you know what, I don't really like B's energy, it would hit me because I hold you in high regards. If somebody to say it off social media that I don't know, I'm like, well, I don't know you. It carries no weight for me. Do you know what I'm saying?
It's a very positive way that you're looking at that because some people aren't able to look at it like that. And I suppose people watching this will say, well, you should never have been subject to that anyway. So even though you've managed to turn it into a positive and say that it's made you a stronger person because of it, no one should experience that. So I suppose the question I'm asking is, how far do you think we've come as a society from 20 years ago to now? Do you think there have been steps positively that have been taken, or do you think that a lot more still needs to be done to tackle
inequality? A lot more
still
needs to be done. We're still having these same... the crazy thing is, we're still having these same conversations now that I went through 20 years ago. So for me, there's so much more that needs to be done. don't get the game twisted. I do feel that we are talking more. And I keep saying that we do need to have these uncomfortable conversations. And I keep saying that there is trigger words. Race is a trigger word. Racism is a trigger word. Systemic oppression is a trigger word. There's trigger words. So it's funny, and this is how I know it. If I just talk about my size, everybody sees the banter side of it. You know what? Yeah, big man, we know you like to laugh and joke. We know you're passionate about Liverpool. Yeah, you know you're excited. And when I say, and you know me, we've had it, and I'm like, yeah, they've just said I'm a fat Eddie Murphy or my tits are offside, and I'll laugh with it. And I'll be like, listen, I'm cool with that. As soon as I say, well, they said a comment to me and I deemed it as racist, you see people come out the woodwork and say, you're being too sensitive now. And I'm like, see, because it's uncomfortable, you want to take it there. You want to get it where it's comfortable with you. So do I say we've moved on? I don't think we've moved on. I do think that now we are more and more, and social media gets used for both positive and negative. So you're seeing a lot more now, so you can't hide it. At one stage, the world, which seems so big, which it is, social media has made it so much smaller. So of course you're seeing it more, so we're talking about it more. Do I think so much needs to be done? 100%, because we're still going through what we're going through now. The England players. I went through it myself, whatever it was, 8 weeks ago, in that we are still going through it, and there's the powers that be. And this is what it keeps coming down to. Slogans are fine. Conversations are fine, because they are needed. You know, actions is needed. Taking a knee, it's needed. But they are just steps. They are not, and I can't sit here, and that's the worst thing. At the same time, it is not a overnight solution. It will never be. This has been going on for so long. And just in my lifetime, just 20 years, like it's there. It pops, it's never gone. Do I think we've moved on a bit? We'll take a step forward, a couple steps back. That's what I think it's been. And to answer your question about, you know what, you should never go for it. Yeah, you know what I'm saying? We'll sit there and say, listen, you know, injustice, in this world, there should never be no injustice. You know, we should try and make as close to a utopia as we can. But the be-all and end-all of it, and the realness of it, is there are bad people in this world. You know, we can't get away from that. So it'll be very unrealistic of me to be like, no, you know what, everybody's got a good heart, everybody's got good soul, everybody's got good energy. There isn't, and they don't. Do you know what I'm saying? But what we need to do is, the thing is, what I do think, and what I take from my situation is, but we can't let the bad people win. That's the thing, and that's what my brother said to me back then.
And that sounds like that's still a powerful moment in your life.
Massive.
That you remember that. You said it's 20 years ago, you remember it like it's yesterday.
Like it was yesterday. I remember the phone call, it was an Ericsson. I remember it like it was yesterday. It is powerful in the sense where, bruv, if you leave, they win. And at that moment, it wasn't powerful to me. That statement wasn't powerful. I won't lie to anybody and think as soon as he said that it was powerful. No, as I slept on it and woke up, I kid you not, I've carried that with me. And that's just where it is. If we do not continue to fight for change, for betterness, for together, the bad people win. And that's where it is. And people may turn around and be like, oh, but who's bad people are and this, and that, and that. Look, we can't no longer just say, you know what, I'm not racist. We can't no longer just do that, because that hasn't worked. But if you see wrong, speak on it. That's just what we got to do. And some people keep looking at it and be like, look at that, it's farther afield, and be like, oh, listen, I roll with them. I don't ever have them thoughts. I don't. But ultimately, and we all got, and this is the thing is, every day is a learning day. I do not have all the answers. Never ever will deem to say I've got all the answers. I don't. But every day is a learning day for us to try to be and do better.
So I imagine you're thinking education is critical in this, and in terms of what you'd like to see going forward, is it about educating, and also about what we as a society can do to stamp it out as a collective? Like you were saying there, people have a responsibility to stop it from other people from doing it. Do you agree with that?
100%. I think education is paramount to what we're doing. It is so important, but it's not the only thing, because I kid you not, a lot of people know right from wrong. So as much as we say that the education is massive in it, but when I keep saying that, like say incidents, they know right from wrong. They just know right from wrong. But as a society, as one collective community, we have to do more and say, listen, But when you see wrong, stamp it out. There's no point like just to be silent and be like, well, listen, I didn't say it, but I'm sitting down and hearing somebody hailing that sort of abuse. Wrong's wrong. You wouldn't want your kids to hear it. You wouldn't want your kids to be getting abuse. And that's the way I try and break it down. Yeah, you may never be able to understand or relate to getting stopped by a police because of your colour of skin, or a security guard following you you may never relate to that. And that's fine in that sense. But I assure everybody in this world has had an injustice that they'd be like, I didn't deserve that whatsoever. So if you know that feeling, that is the same feeling that as black folks or ethnic folk, we're saying, look, bruv, this is happening to us. So when we speak on it, relate to the injustice that's happened to you, rather than saying, well, I can't relate because, boy, I've never, and that's what I'm saying, as one community. Like, we have got, of course, individual communities within our society, but as one community, as one human movement, we have to continue to try and do better.
You mentioned the conversation you had with your brother, a very powerful moment.
Yeah.
I've met your brother as well, know your family. You've also got 5 children, 5 young kids. Have you actually had many awkward conversations or important conversations with your kids about these matters? Have they ever had discrimination towards them?
No, I don't think they've had discrimination yet. Of course, my oldest daughter is 13, year 9, so she's a bit more up to date with the current affairs. Of course, we have conversations, about the BLM, why is there protests, So we'd have conversations, and I've gone back and forth. But I think one powerful moment I had with my son, I'm a big kid. I'm a big kid at heart. So I do a lot with my son, or my sons, I would say. But my son Jai, I think it was his birthday. We play FIFA a lot, and it was like, oh yeah. And then he keeps saying, yeah, I'm gonna play that with my son. I was like, yeah. So he asked me, he was like, why are people kneeling? Why are people kneeling? Yeah. I was like, look, people are kneeling for change. So, you kneel for support, stand for change. You know what I'm saying? That's what it was. So I was like, let's take it. Let's take a picture. So I was like, we'll do it. We'll take a picture together. So we took a picture. And he was like, I said, but why is it? I was like, listen, because you know what? There's systemic racism. There's racism going on. We want equality. That's what it was. He was like, okay. He was like, oh, Pops, you know what? And it was funny because he's not a deep individual. No. But he was like, you know what, Dad? For all the things we do together, this is the one thing I don't want to do with my son. And I was thinking,
well, how old is he again?
He's 10. He's 10.
Wow.
And I was like, to be fair, I looked at him. First I looked at him, I was like, he loves a Fortnite, you know what I'm saying? He loves a FIFA game sort of thing, so he's a gamer. But this was the first, I looked at him and I was like, you know what, in my heart, I was like, you know what, it's true. Like, I don't want my son to do that with his son. Yeah. I don't want him to feel like he has to kneel. I don't want him to kneel for equality. I want everyone to be able to stand as one. And when he said that to me, I was like, rah, you know what? That's deep. Yeah. We have to make change because it's just what it is. It's generational, and it just keeps going. Like, my dad would have gone through it. Yeah. Had a conversation with me. I've had it. Have a conversation with my son, and as a father, it chokes you up to be like, you know what? Because ultimately, as a parent, your ultimate goal is to protect. You never want your kids to be able to go through pain. I don't care if they're 10. 20, 40, I'm 38, my parents do not want me to go through pain. So for my 10-year-old to be saying that, well, you know what, Dad, I don't want to have to kneel with my son. And I was like, raw. You know what I'm saying? That's something where I'd be like, if I saw that on a film, it would choke me up, but that's a powerful moment. And that was, for me, the biggest thing where I was like, nah, man, we need to make change. Like, we can't keep doing this. We can't. The kids are the future, and they can't keep feeling this. And that's how important it is. So I keep coming back to, if you can't relate to what we're saying, relate to be able to look at your kids' eyes and be like, you know what? Nah, man, I would never want that pain. I would never want that pain for my kid. It's the same. I'd never want my pain. I don't want that pain for my kid, any kid. And I think that's what, and for me, that's the message moving forward about, like, look, you know what? Like, we've got to do better. Like, just, I'm saying as a society, we've got to do better.
I could tell it's an incredibly powerful moment, that, just by looking at your face
Yeah.
and body language, with how choked you actually got talking about your son.
It's mad.
It's amazing seeing that, you saying how you use it as a positive, the experience you've had, and credit to you for overcoming such horrific abuse you've suffered. But when it's your son, it really hits home for you.
It's just because, look, any parent out there will know. The worst thing is, any parent out there will know why I'm getting choked up, because I don't care what anybody says. The kids are the most innocent and they're the future. And you just want to hug them and hold them and not want them to go through. I would hate to feel my kids going through what I went through. I would hate it. As much as I'm like, it shaped me, and, you know, I would hate it in my soul, to the point where I'm like, yo, brother, you 1,000 people, I'm standing there by myself, and we are going to rock. And that's what it is. You just want to protect. So that's where, when I'm talking about it, and I remember seeing my son's eye, and I was thinking, raw, like, this is deep. Like, you know, and of course, out of all of it, that's what hits home. Of course, you make sacrifices all the time for your loved ones. That's fine. I ain't got a problem. I'll take anything for my family. But ultimately, and it comes back to, we've got to put it in now, so for when they do get older, they don't have to go through it. And that's the message I'm trying to send out.
And just finally, is there anything you want to say for any people that sadly may have experienced some sort of discrimination, which we are all, as a society, trying to do our best to stamp out and raise awareness of? Is there any final messages you'd have for people based on the very powerful messages you've had?
It's hard, because what I would always say, and I would say is, look, don't bottle it up. Like, don't let nobody make you question who you are, what you are. Don't bottle it up, because it starts eating at you inside. And I'll leave it with it. I'll leave this with you, in the sense where, if you are going through trials and tribulations, if you're going through challenges, if you're going through things where you feel like you're unjust and that, what I live by is, I keep saying it, I never do things to prove nobody wrong. I do things to prove myself right. Do things to prove yourself right. Know what you're about. Nobody can be or do you better than you, so be about you. And I guess that's the best way I can finish it.
Adebayo, amazingly powerful day, and I've got to just reiterate that this wasn't anything that you had to do, or this was you wanting to do this. You've given up your time to come here. You've travelled from training. I'm incredibly moved and very powerful. I'm proud to call you mate, and thank you very much for your time.
Blessings, man. Thank you, my brother.